Okay, so it's late. I'm here. Um, Something happened. Today is Tuesday. Something happened last Friday that I kind of wanted to talk about. So, the author Tori Wood's pen name was arrested around 12:30 last Friday. After police searched her house after being notified of some of the content she was writing about, and they were notified by her own readers. The author's real name is Lauren Tesselin Mastrosas, and she's 33 with two children, both under the age of 5. And she was previously the marketing executive for Baptist Care, which is a Christian nonprofit organization in Australia. It's pretty important to note here that apparently, I didn't know this, but Australia is very strict when it comes to content relating to child abuse. They also have a lot of very different, very specific laws. Like the laws in Victoria are different from the Commonwealth law. I don't know a lot about Australia. But in the US, you can't really arrest people for writing things, which is why I think so many Americans were shocked that it happened. But apparently Australia takes it very seriously, like to protect their children, because as Americans, we don't really care about ours. So the author's previous pen name was Lauren Ashley, and she had previously released 2 books in a series called Everything I Am. The first book was called Broken, and the second was called Crossroads. And she had previously received backlash because she was accused of plagiarizing the book Baron's Second Chance, and that was by S.T. Morse, which is why she made another pen name, being Tori Woods. There's also some rumors that she could be now going by the name L.R. Meadows, but there's no confirmation on that, just rumors. Also, she was arrested. So, Lauren Tesselin Mastrosis was arrested for possessing child abuse material, disseminating child abuse material, and producing child abuse material on Friday. But she was granted conditional bail, and she has to appear before Blacktown local court on Monday, March 31st, which is next week. She has since pulled down her social media accounts, and the book has been removed from Amazon and Goodreads. The book was marketed as a dark romance. It followed a girl named Lucy who had just turned 18, and she has an abusive family. Lauren claims that this was supposed to be a Cinderella retelling, and then she also has a crush on her dad's best friend, Arthur. The book specifically mentions that Arthur has been attracted to her since she was 3, and there are many excerpts from the book of him talking about her in a sexual manner when she was a child. And the book kind of talks about how Lucy is now an adult, and she has a crush on Arthur, but he has had a crush on her since she was 3. So people had issues with that for obvious reasons. You can't find the book now because it has been completely wiped for a good reason from everything. But there are screenshots, and also you can, like, people were quoting it in their Goodreads reviews with disgust. I'm not going to read them out because they're gross. But so Lauren has since apologized for this. She said on her Instagram, "I think there's been a huge misunderstanding. DLT is definitely not promoting or inciting anything to do with CSA, which is what is being said is grossly disturbing and breaks my heart, as well as makes me sick. DLT is fictional and meant to represent the DDLG world. I understand where it went wrong, and that is why I removed it from Amazon. What happened between these characters started at a young age. No, she censors intercourse. Happened while she was young. Yes, there were thoughts. I can see now that that is frowned upon." Crazy wording. Nothing like that until she was of age. Nothing that I say is going to fix what I've written. There are, however, 3 innocent people who have been caught in the crossfire, and it needs to stop. Georgia, Misha, and Ashley, along with their businesses, Pixel and Quill, Mish Taylor PA, and Ava Book Editing. These ladies were under no impression that I was Lauren Ashley writing under Tori Woods. I only reached out to these ladies to work as Tori. Georgia was my PA for Lauren Ashley and has only ever read half of my first book and decided it was not for her. This is why she became my PA, because she was honest. Georgia had raised concerns with me about people mentioning her ARC form. This was copied from a template, hence why they all look the same. Misha Taylor has read a couple of my books, but not this one in particular. Neither of them knew the full extent that was in this book. Ashley edited the book. She had some questions, and in my replies, I wasn't entirely truthful. She did not read over my final manuscript, which became the published version. I'm so sorry that I wasn't who I said I was, and I was so sorry about the content of my book. I'm even more sorry that this is missed as a trigger warning. I will be removing myself from the book community. She, I'm never going to come back. If I ever get back to writing, I'm never going to hide who I am again. However, I don't see that happening. And then she, this is bye. So I did think it was very interesting that the one lady also worked with her under her other name. She claims that she didn't know it was the same person. But I feel like if, whatever. I will say the cover artist was heavily harassed despite not knowing the contents of the book. And don't get me wrong, the title's pretty bad. But I don't think that she really knew the full extent of what was in the book. So one of the arguments that is coming up is the DDLG argument. A lot of people defending this book due to it being a work of fiction about DDLG, but I've yet to see somebody who is openly a part of this community say anything positive about the book. I've only seen people say negative things about the book. I cannot really speak on this because I'm not involved in this community, but I will say that kink is supposed to be consensual. That is the whole point. Although this book is a work of fiction, I still think it would be important to leave trigger warnings, stuff like that, about the content in the book, and clearly express that this book is about a DDLG fantasy and not a man lusting over a toddler. People in that community did not seem to be happy about this being a portrayal of their community for obvious reasons. The point of their community is that it's consensual. It's between two consenting adults. But her book was about a man and a toddler, and that's not consensual. Another argument that I've been seeing online is books like Lolita also contain similar content, but I think these topics can be written about. You just have to watch your tone and approach. Not that much anymore, but when I used to read a lot, I was reading a lot of extreme horror. I love reading gross shit, I'll be completely honest. But the difference is that the splatterpunk books are written with the intention to disgust you. The titles, cover, language all make it clear that the book is using these taboo topics to disgust and horrify the reader, as opposed to DLT, which was written as a smut novel. It was written as a dark fantasy novel. She's a dark fantasy author. It was marketed as that. The point of the book was to be smut. It wasn't supposed to horrify. It was supposed to be smut to people. One of my favorite books ever is called My Dark Vanessa, and it is considered almost a modern retelling of Lolita. It's about a girl who's preyed on by her school teacher. The novel is excellent. It's very honest. And the scenes where Vanessa is being abused, because it has two different narratives. One of them is when she is in school and she's being abused, and then one of them is when she's an adult and she's reminiscing on it, and realizing, that it was abuse. When she's a child, there's scenes where she's being abused and they are revolting. They're not, although they do contain sexual material, it's not written to be smut. It is written to make the reader uncomfortable and be disgusted. I'm not saying you can't write about rape and child abuse. I just think it's very important to keep the tone that you're writing these things in mind. My Dark Vanessa and Lolita are written very seriously, and the abusers are portrayed as monsters. They're not portrayed to be good guys. But the thing about DLT is that Arthur is kind of set up to be a love interest rather than an antagonist. Again, I didn't read the book. I only saw excerpts from it. But the vibe that I got from the excerpts and the way that people are talking about it is that Arthur is supposed to be Lucy's love interest rather than him being portrayed as an abuser, which is where I think a lot of people are having an issue. I think if he was being portrayed as an abuser and there was like a slight tone shift, it was slightly more serious and more of like, it was less romanticized, I think that people wouldn't have such a big issue with it. But because the book chose to take this tone and chose to make the pedophile the love interest, I think that's why people are having an issue with it. I don't think it's the fact that the author wrote, scenes that were talking about child abuse. I think it was the way that she went about it. At least that was how I was kind of understanding the situation. But yeah, this just popped up on my, it came up in a YouTube recommended. Yeah, the trial isn't until next Monday. We'll see, I guess. But, there's a lot of arguments about censorship, and I do think that tone is very important. You can hear my cat scratching. But I think it's very important to stuff like this. I'm not saying that you can't write about child abuse, but you need to be careful with it. You can't just like put it in a smut novel and then expect everybody to be okay with it. That's not how that works. Yeah, I think that's about it. I hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.